Hi, welcome back to the channel. So in the previous video we talked about what is money and what are the characteristics of money, what were the problems with the previous forms of money such as stones and gold standard and gold coins and other metals. In this video we look at how Bitcoin solved these problems and thus why it matters. I would highly recommend you to watch that video if you want to know how money works, how it's created, what can be categorized as money, and what is the store of value, why it's important, and all those things. In any case, here's a short recap. So we discussed that there are four characteristics of money: medium of exchange, salability across space, scales and time, hard money, and store of value. In our first example, we saw that how rice stones, which has been used for centuries, suddenly lost their value when they had the technology to increase the supply of these stones. Then we saw that with copper, as the demand for copper increased and as we already have a lot of copper, the supply of copper increased more than the demand and suddenly copper lost its value. And same happened with silver, but gold increased in value. So we couldn't simply use gold for everything because you can't carry small quantities of gold to buy everything good, and it's not safe to keep it with yourself. So government took all the gold and they issued notes which represented those gold. Then during the war, government had to print more notes. Then they had the gold reserves because they need to pay the soldiers, and which increased the supply of paper currency, thus devaluing the paper currency, and those who had paper currency lost its value, and we saw how it led to hyperinflation around the world, and we learned what happens when you give the control of money to a single entity, whether it be central bank or whatever. The problem with government issued currency is that the people who are responsible for controlling the monetary system are here for a short period of time, and to fund anything you need money. Either increase taxes, which will make people unhappy, increase corporate tax, which will make institutions unhappy, and third, which is the easiest thing, increase the supply of money. In the short term, you won't see any negative effects. Just increase the supply of money, do whatever you want to do, provide healthcare, provide education, and in the short term everything is fine, everyone is happy. But in the long term, it has negative consequences. But if the production of country increases, then it's not a problem because for each good you have the equivalent supply of money. But if the production decreases and the supply increases, then we have the problem. So it's not like printing money is bad, it depends on how much you are doing it. And history is the prime example that we often overprint money. So as soon as we got our hands on internet and people could connect with one another, it was long desired that we have a digital form of currency. A currency which is not controlled by anyone, not even its creator. A currency free from the clutches of government, national borders, and which provides equal access to everyone around the world anytime, and which has the same rules for both rich and poor. And all the attempts failed miserably. Why? Well, it turns out it is very hard to create a decentralized currency. So let's take an example of Fortnite. Now in Fortnite you have digital currency, V-Bucks. So you can purchase those V-Bucks and then can purchase anything from the store in Fortnite. Everything is controlled by the servers of Epic Games, and they issue the currency, they control everything. So it's the job of Epic Games to make sure that no one is cheating, no one is increasing the currency which they have, because everything is stored in their server. So you have to basically hack them to do it, which is not very feasible. So yeah, that doesn't happen. But in a decentralized system, we don't have that single authority who keeps track of everything. So in a central system, there is a single authority which you have to trust. You have to trust Epic Games that they are not cheating with you, they are not taking your money and not giving you V-Bucks, and they are responsible for whatever happens. But in a decentralized system where we have a lot of people, a lot of computers, how do you maintain trust? So that was the biggest problem with the digital currency. The second problem was of double spending. So for example, if I have 100 V-Bucks and I spend 100 V-Bucks to buy something, and from another phone with the same account I spend the same 100 V-Bucks to buy another thing. Now both the data goes to Epic Games so they can cross check. But in a decentralized system, it's very hard to make sure that you are not spending the same amount twice. So let's just keep it to these two problems because there are so many problems that this video will never finish if we discuss all of them. Then in 2008, a single individual or a group of individuals released a paper on how a digital currency could work. The pseudonymous name of this particular entity is Satoshi Nakamoto, and he, she, it or they created Bitcoin, the first engineering solution which is verifiably scarce and can be trusted without trusting anyone. How? Let's discuss. So, in a Bitcoin network, there are nodes or computers connected to one another, and they all store the copy of each transaction that ever occurred through Bitcoin. So, because there are so many computers, there is no single point of failure, because even if you shut down hundreds of these computers, there are still thousands of them left, so no government can stop it. There are 500 transactions in each block, and each block is connected to another block in a form of chain through hashes. So each block with the transaction and other data stores the hash or the identifier of the previous block. This forms a long chain until the genesis block or the first block that was ever created in the Bitcoin network. So if you try to manipulate any data and try to create another block by giving yourself, for example, from 0.0001 Bitcoin to changing your account to 100 Bitcoin, and when you try to make that block and add it to the chain, all the other computers in the network can see that previously you did not have that much Bitcoin, so you must be cheating. Now you might be thinking, what are these computers and who runs them? Well, as Bitcoin is decentralized and is not owned by any particular entity, anyone from anywhere in the world can take part in the network through an internet connection. But why would anyone want to spend electricity and do all this work? Well, when you, or more precisely your computer, successfully validates all the transactions and creates a new block, you are rewarded with Bitcoin. This is how Bitcoin is created. So Bitcoin is the incentive to store the data and validate all these transactions. And those who are involved in this task are called miners because they are mining or creating new Bitcoin. Well, okay, I get it that it is a good medium of exchange. I get it that it is salable across space because of internet. It is salable across scales because there can be 0.00000000000000001 Bitcoin, and it is for some reason salable across time because I always hear Bitcoin going up in the long run, but I still don't get it how it is hard money and how can I trust it and how it is a good store of value. Okay, you remember these computers? Well, they compete with each other through their computational power. That is, the most powerful computer has the higher probability of creating a new block. Minting of new tokens or new Bitcoin is a very hard process in the sense that computers have to solve a very hard mathematical problem called proof of work, which is so hard that it takes a lot of electricity, time and computational power that you just can't, as of right now, use your everyday computer to do it. That is why there are specialized computers for this exact purpose, because there are so many computers in the Bitcoin network that you need to compete it, and so people keep getting better hardware. So to be competitive, you need a better hardware. You just can't use a normal computer. And this is done intentionally, so if anyone tries to tamper with the money they have or anyone else have, they will have to put in a lot of work, they will have to spend a lot on electricity, computational power.
Only burning my half.
To create a block, because they have to solve proof of work first. But on the other hand, verification is super easy. It requires negligible amount of computational power and electricity. So in one hand, creating a block is super hard, but on the other hand, verification is super easy, which makes it easier to identify if someone has created a wrong block. Now, this proof of work algorithm is designed in such a way that it gets harder and harder as more computers join the network. This is done because with time, computers are increasing and it will become easier to mine new bitcoins and create new blocks. To counterbalance that and to improve the security of the network, the proof of work gets harder. So we can only create one block roughly every 10 minutes, and around every 4 years, or more accurately 210,000 blocks later, the supply of Bitcoin is reduced by half. So initially when Bitcoin was created, it was 50 Bitcoin per block, so miner will be rewarded with 50 Bitcoin per block. Then it reduced to 25, then 12.5, and now it is 6.25 Bitcoin per block around every 10 minutes. And this is called halving. Moreover, the supply of Bitcoin is fixed at 21 million coins. That means no more coins will ever be created. 18 million coins have been created till now, and by 2025, 20 million will be created. That last 1 million will be created by 2148 because of the halving. So the price of Bitcoin will keep increasing because supply is decreasing due to halving, and more people are now buying Bitcoin, thus increasing the demand. Moreover, the stock to flow ratio is high. So what is stock to flow ratio? Now stock is the total amount of Bitcoin that exists right now, which you can access, minus the amount of Bitcoin that people have lost because they forgot their private key, divided by the supply of Bitcoin. If the stock to flow ratio is high, then that gold is considered as a good store of value. For example, gold. Gold has a supply of less than 2% of its stock every year, giving it a high stock to flow ratio. And history is a prime example of gold being a very good store of value. Gold is considered safe haven, but Bitcoin has even higher stock to flow ratio, making it a better store of value. This is because Bitcoin is more technologically sound. It is fixed at 21 million coins, whereas the supply of gold can increase when we have the technology to mine it from asteroids or from the magma of the planet. So with all the points we discussed, we can finally say that Bitcoin is the hardest money ever created. It has a fixed supply, it cannot be hacked, it cannot be shut down, it is anonymous, it is a better store of value, it has high stock to flow ratio, it even competes with gold. The increase in its price cannot lead to the increase in supply because it is fixed, so only the price can increase, giving an incentive to store it and mine it. This system only makes the network stronger because more and more people would want to take the profit, so they will join the network, they will put in their computers for work, which will increase the overall network security. So in the long run, it will only make it harder for government to shut it down or for any bad actor to hack it. This is why many people and corporations are buying Bitcoin, because they understand that in the long run, price of Bitcoin is only going to increase and it is better than any fiat currency or other form of assets. I'm not saying Bitcoin is the best solution because Bitcoin still requires a lot of electricity, which you can argue is not the best use of computational power, but there is a counter argument to that there cannot be better use of electricity than to provide to the people who are living in third world countries such as Venezuela and Argentina, those who are suffering from hyperinflation. So yeah, you can argue about that. Then there is another point about that Bitcoin can never replace dollar or other currencies. Now I agree to that. Bitcoin is not meant to replace dollar and other currencies. The use case of Bitcoin is as a store of value, not to use it as a currency. You don't take gold to buy a cup of coffee. You use other currencies for that, such as dollar. So in the same way, you don't want to use Bitcoin to buy a coffee. You want to use something like Nano to do it. There are a lot of different cryptocurrencies with their own purpose, so you can't use a single example of a scam project to bring down the name of whole industry. There are cryptocurrencies for decentralized finance, for tokenization of several different goods. There are cryptocurrencies on top of which you can build applications, games, and other things. So you can't just take the example of few cryptocurrencies and bring down the name of whole industry. And now there is other argument that cryptocurrencies are only used for terrorist activities. For that, I would say that you were able to catch those terrorists because they were using cryptocurrencies, and blockchain is open to everyone. You can see all the transactions. You can't see who sent it, but you can see the public address and then you can track it. In our normal financial systems, you pay them few extra bucks and they will hide your name. So yeah. Anyways, I would recommend you to do your own research before you invest in any of these platforms or use these platforms, because a lot of them are scams, and whenever there is a new technology, that is just in its early stages, there are a lot of scams. And unless the industry matures, you will have a lot of scams, and with time it will all play out well. Okay, thanks for watching. See you next time.